All right, today we're diving into a real literary cage match. We're talking about one of the great critical showdowns, and it's all centered on a single, super divisive novel by Charles Dickens, Hard Times.
And get this, the opinions could not be more black and white. It's just wild. On one side, you have a critic who basically says, this is the worst thing Dickens ever wrote, don't even bother. But on the other side, the hugely influential critic F.R. Leavis comes out and declares it's his single greatest work, his masterpiece. They're looking at the exact same pages, you guys, the same story, the same characters.
So, how is that even possible? That's the big question we're tackling. How can one book be seen as both total trash and a complete work of genius? Is one of these critics just flat out wrong? Or were they reading the book in two fundamentally different ways? Let's unravel this thing.
Okay, so let's start with the prosecution. We're going to look at all the arguments for why Hard Times is considered, by some, to be a pretty big failure, especially for an author who is at the absolute peak of his game.
Wow, you can really just feel the venom in this quote, can't you? This critic isn't just disagreeing, they're calling the very idea of praising Hard Times one of the most foolish statements of this age. The battle lines have been drawn, and they are not subtle.
So the case against the book is that it fails on pretty much every level we expect from Dickens. The argument is that its social commentary is all muddled, the characters feel like one-dimensional cartoons, and it just doesn't have that rich, complex, grotesque, poetic genius that you find in his other masterpieces like Bleak House.
But the real heart of the attack is all about authenticity. The argument goes that Dickens's factory town, Coketown, just feels fake. Why? Because he only saw that life from a distance. So the world he created isn't real art, it's just heavy-handed political propaganda.
But now, it's time for the defense. This is where F.R. Leavis steps into the courtroom and completely flips the entire debate on its head. He says, you know all those things you called weaknesses? Those are actually the novel's greatest strengths.
And this is the million-dollar question, right? If the charges are true, that the characters are flat and the world isn't realistic, how in the world can it be a masterpiece? Well, Leavis' answer is brilliant. He says, you're judging it by the wrong rules.
Leavis says Hard Times isn't trying to be a traditional novel at all. It's a moral fable. And in a fable, everything, every single character, every setting, every line of dialogue is there for a very specific reason. It's all symbolic, and it's all designed to serve one central powerful message. And this is the key. The lack of realism isn't a mistake. It's the entire point. Dickens isn't trying to paint you a perfect photorealistic picture. He's crafting a tightly controlled, powerful work of art to tear down a philosophy that he saw as soul-crushing.
So here's the clash in a nutshell. The first critic wants what they call life. Messy, sprawling, full of random details. But Leavis sees genius in the novel's intense focus. He argues that every single element has a closely calculated relevance that builds into this powerful, organized, and significant whole.
Okay, so that's the theory. But where's the proof? Well, Leavis dives straight into Dickens's own writing to show us exactly how this whole moral fable thing actually works on the page.
He kicks things off with his unforgettable scene in Mr. Gradgrind's school. Gradgrind, this guy who believes only in facts, cold hard facts, asks Sissy Jupe to define a horse. Now, Sissy grew up in a circus. She knows horses inside and out, but she can't give him a textbook definition.
And this scene just perfectly captures the novel's main conflict. After Sissy fails, Gradgrind calls on another student, Bitzer, who spits out a flawless dictionary definition. So you see what Dickens is doing? Bitzer has all the facts, but zero real understanding. Sissy has all the understanding, but none of the facts. It's a brilliant way to show us two ways of knowing the world. One is human and intuitive, the other is sterile and mechanical.
Then Leavis points to Dickens's incredible poetic language. I mean, even a simple sunbeam becomes symbolic here. The sun brings out the life and color in Sissy, but it seems to drain the little color Bitzer has. It's a perfect visual metaphor for vitality versus the kind of living death that Gradgrind's system represents.
And this symbolism goes way beyond the classroom. It extends to the second major piece of evidence for Leavis's case, the circus. This circus isn't just some fun, colorful backdrop. It's the symbolic heart of everything that the industrial town of Coketown is trying to stamp out.
The circus embodies everything that Coketown is not. We're talking human connection, joy, real skill, kindness, art. It is the perfect symbolic opposite of a town that is so obsessed with work that its hospital and its jail look exactly the same.
And this is where Leavis says we find the book's deepest insight. Dickens understood that the problem wasn't just about low wages or poor working conditions. The real horror was the dreadful degradation of life, the crushing of the human spirit, which no amount of money or comfort could ever replace.
So, we've seen two totally opposite takes on the very same book, and that brings us to a much bigger question, one that goes beyond just hard times. It's about how we decide what makes any work of art great.
You see, the first critic was looking for realism, for nuance, for that messy abundance of life, and instead they found what they thought was propaganda. But F.R. Leavis was looking for a powerful artistic vision, for poetic control, for symbolism, and he found a masterpiece. They were just playing different games, judging by completely different criteria.
Which leaves us with this fundamental question. What do we value more in art? Do we value it because it holds a mirror up to the world exactly as it is? Or do we value it for creating a focused, symbolic world that shows us a deeper kind of truth?
Leavis, for one, leaves no doubt about where he stands. For him, the intense focus and moral seriousness of Hard Times actually lifts it above Dickens's other more sprawling novels. It makes it not just a great book, but a completely serious work of art. A powerful claim, and one that absolutely forces us to take another look at a book we thought we knew.